fix. So we can do those, and then we'll just kind of, yeah, we need to talk containers. Yeah, that's probably going to take up most of our time. If we have a little bit of extra time, we'll find something else. So
when do you get those petunias that you said that you don't have to?
Deadhead, the Vista petunias, they'll come in about the middle to the latter part of April. So yeah, let's see, Clara. All right, we'll put Clara over here. All right. And Sunny. All right, Sunny made it.
Of course.
All right. Glad you made it, Clara. No Ethan today?
No.
Hopefully doing something fun. Yeah, let's hope he's doing something fun. Okay, cool. Let's see. I'm trying to think if we did anything fun this week. I just worked a lot this week. Yeah, not as much fun. Just like lots of work this week. So definitely not as much fun. Okay, so one of the biggest issues that people have when they're gardening is they don't plant stuff properly. So we're going to go over like container and bare root planting so that you'll be successful every time you plant stuff. Now this applies to trees as well as to shrubs, as well as to perennials, as well as to vegetables and everything else. And so if you plant properly, you will be much, much more successful. But right now we're doing bare root plants. So we've got tons of bare root trees and raspberries and strawberries and currants and blackberries and blueberries right now. And they're all bare root, and people have a hard time getting them established sometimes. And so we're going to go through that process, but the process is the same for container plants as it is for bare root stuff. So you can pretty much use the same principles. What I usually tell people right off the bat when you're doing bare root stuff is make sure and inspect the plants before you take them home, and then pick good plants to begin with. And sometimes you think all of them are good, but what I watch for is make sure the roots have been covered up and have stayed moist the entire time. This is hard to do because we put them in big containers, like whether it's the trees or whether it's the raspberries or whatever. We put them in big containers and we hill them in with some really nice soil that has coconut coir in it and has peat moss and it's got a little bit of compost. It's really, really nice soil. It will hold moisture for way longer than it looks like. So one of my employees the other day, they were like, "Oh, should we water these? It's kind of dry." And I was like, "Let me come take a look at it before we water them." And I went out there and the surface looks dry, kind of like the coconut coir over here, but you dig down just a little bit and it's moist down like 1.5 inches. It's like, no, don't water them. They're good. So the problem that we have is we hill them in, we have them all nice and pretty, they get watered, they stay moist all the time, we check them every day to make sure that they're good. But as the customers come in to get stuff, they don't know our rules and they play by a different set of rules. And so they'll pull a tree out and then the roots are now exposed and it kind of pulls the soil away from a lot of other ones, but then they go, "Oh, this one's nice, but ooh, I like that one better." And so then they take the other one out and now they have two and they go, "Okay, I'll put this one back," and they kind of like throw a little bit of dirt on top of it because it's now like sitting on the surface with just a little bit of dirt thrown on top of it. And if it's sunny and warm outside and it's 70 degrees like it's going to be next week, it'll dry the roots out pretty fast. Now my employees are trained to watch for that and hopefully prevent people from doing that, but we can't watch them 24/7. So try and avoid the ones that have gotten pulled out and just a little bit of dirt thrown on top of them. We try and fix that like daily, but it will happen. Same thing with the raspberries. They'll pull a bundle of 10 out and they'll go, "Oh, maybe I'll get two," and then all of a sudden, "Oh no, that's more money I want to spend." So we'll throw one back in and then they just like kind of kick a little bit of dirt on top of it. And that's about it. So watch for plants that have been like kept moist because we don't want the root systems to dry up, even though we're going to rehydrate them anyway. And then for like trees especially, look for damage from the graft up. Usually the roots kind of get beat up in transportation and stuff, but look at the trunk. A little bit of scuffing or scrapes or whatever is not a big deal. But if you've got like half the bark's torn off on one side, it's going to take a while for it to recover from that kind of damage. Or if there's a split in it because it got dropped, or who knows what happened to it. But kind of inspect the plants, make sure the trunks look really good. For the raspberry canes, just make sure they look nice and they have a good root system to them. Because sometimes we'll get some plants in, and one plant has a root system on it that's this big, and the one right next to it has a root system that's about that big on it. So some just have more roots to them than others. And so we look for that as well too. And yeah, just look for good plants. And then what we'll do with them is when you decide which plants you want, or if we've picked the plants out for you, we'll put them in plastic bags and we'll wrap the roots up. We'll put them in plastic, and sometimes we'll put 3 or 4 trees in one plastic bag, and that's fine. But gently get them home. Don't rough them up on the way. It's best if they don't hang out the back of the truck, because then they bounce on the tailgate and then they get scuffed and beat up. So we want them in a nice secure location as you're taking them home. Then when you get them home, we're going to put them in a shady location. So we don't want them in full sun. We're going to put plants in shady location. This is bare root as well as container plants. So both are going to go in a shady location. And for the trees or shrubs or perennials or whatever that's in containers, water them when you get them home. So we're going to water them immediately so they stay moist. But the bare root stuff, instead of like hurrying and digging a hole and throwing them in, we're going to hydrate them for 24 to 48 hours. Kind of like I showed you last week with the onions. So I left the onions in water for a little bit longer. So now you can really see the roots are taken off. So these are the same onions from last week, and I thought we'd just hydrate them a little bit longer. Now look at the roots on them. So huge difference. The roots are just going nuts. And if you hydrate your trees and shrubs and strawberries and other bare root plants for 24 to 48 hours, it will hydrate those dry roots up. So even if the roots have been exposed, what happens is you've got this nice root system that's full of moisture, and then they get pulled out of the soil and the sun bakes them for a little while. The moisture doesn't evaporate. It goes into the interior of the plant. So it'll go deeper into the root system or into the trunk, and then it will stay there. And so to get those to plump up again, if you rehydrate them, they'll hydrate back up. All right, so always hydrate stuff 24 to 48 hours. And if you can, hydrate it in Kangaroot's or Bigfoot instead of just for straight water, because this will get the process going of the plants getting colonized by the mycorrhiza. So we did the onions with either the Kangaroot's or the Bigfoot. I can't remember.
No, it's not straight, that.
Oh, no. We're going to mix it up. Yeah. So like if you do the Kangaroot's, it's only 2 teaspoons per gallon. And so they're going to mix 2 teaspoons for every gallon. Like say you do it in a 5-gallon bucket, you're going to do 10 teaspoons in 5 gallons. And you're going to hydrate it for 24 to 48 hours. Then when you go to plant it, you can water it with your 5 gallons. So it's like use the 5 gallons already mixed up. It's not like it's going to suck everything out of it, and it's just going to be water at that point. Like use it because it's going to be good. So we're going to put it in a shady location. We're going to hydrate for 24 to 48 hours. And during that 24 to 48 hours, you can dig your hole and prep the hole so it's ready to go. So a lot of people want to take stuff home and plant it instantly, because that's like, I'm doing it Saturday. I'm just going to go get it. I'm going to go bring it home. I'm going to plant it. Boom, I'm done. It's better if you can get them in advance, and when you really want to plant them, hydrate them up for a little while and then transplant them when it's all ready to go instead of rushing to do it. So yes, Wendy.
If you buy those like 6-packs and all that.
Yeah.
If you just sit those in the water with the Kangaroot's or whatever before you plant them, is that okay?
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
let it absorb through the
I'll mix it up in a watering can and I'll water them with it, or else you can put them in a little container and let them hydrate up. But hydrating those plants when you get them home will help a ton. But I don't like to plant them when they're soggy wet. So I'll hydrate them and then I'll plant like the next day or the day after. Sometimes if the weather's kind of really up and down, I won't plant them for a week. And I'll put them outside in a protected spot where they can kind of get acclimated to the new area before I take them home and plant them. And usually I'm way more successful than when I just get excited and I grab some stuff out of the greenhouse and I take it home and I plant it that night. They just don't transplant as well because they're going from the greenhouse right outside. But if I take them home and I kind of get them used to it before I transplant them, they seem to do a lot better. Yeah, much better. So we're going to hydrate. We're going to get those guys ready. Then we're going to go prepare the holes to plant them. And there are some devices that are better than others for digging holes. So I brought up a root slayer shovel that you can see. This is one of my favorite shovels, and it is called the Root Slayer for a reason. And it has a plastic cover on it for a reason. Yeah. So it's very sharp. So it has a chisel point for cutting through roots. So this is great for areas where you have a lot of trees or shrubs or stuff existing where the root system is kind of filled that area. This will cut through those suckers like crazy. It has a saw blade on both sides. So it'll actually cut through roots in the ground, and it's very heavy duty. And so you can just like put it on stuff and stomp on it, and it will actually cut through roots. Everybody I lend my Root Slayer to, they come back with it because I tell them if they don't bring it back, I will come and find them. Yeah. They bring it back, but they ask, do you sell those at the store? Because that's the best shovel I've ever used. You know, for this is not a shovel for moving a lot of dirt. This is a good shovel for digging holes, you know, and cutting through roots and stuff. So if you're moving a lot of dirt, don't use this. Yeah, Cal. It'd be great for sod. Yeah, it's really good. But it's I'll pass it around. Don't cut yourself with it because it is pretty sharp. It's a heavy shovel. Like it's made for prying trees out. They are. I think I just picked the price tag off. They're about $60. Is it? Yeah, it's missing. It's no. I thought I had it too, but then I think it stuck to my hand. They're about $60. Yeah, they're in that range. But it is a great shovel. Oh yes, $59.99. So $60. I was right on. Yeah, I'm gonna put this back on though, so you don't like get skewered with it. So, but it is a great shovel, and everybody that has used it was like, "Oh, I love that shovel." It's like, yes, it is an amazing shovel. All right, come on. I'll pass it around for you. And they come in different sizes too, so you don't have to get the biggest one. They have smaller ones too. D, try that.
That is the biggest one then.
They've got some that are a little bit wider, but this is a digging spade, and it's great for prying trees out that you want to move somewhere else. So it's a really nifty little tool, and it's hefty, and it's got a fiberglass handle on it, and I haven't had anybody break one yet. So we've had it for probably 6 or 7 years. I've had mine, so it's a really great tool. Yeah, that's a really good tool. Yeah, they're heavy. Yeah, they're pretty heavy. So while your plants are hydrating or calmly sitting in the shade, whichever way, you want to prepare your hole. And this goes for tomatoes as well as for flowers, as well as for perennials and shrubs and trees. If your plant is in a 3-gallon pot, oh, yep, it's still moist down here still.
Is that the one you hydrated?
The first week, yeah. Look how moist it is still, yeah. Still moist in there. If you're,
stay moist if you didn't dig it up every night.
It would probably stay moist longer if I didn't dig it up every week, yeah. But it's still pretty damp even 7 weeks later.
So you put peat moss also
This
in with that?
This is coconut coir.
Right, but
No peat moss in it, just coconut coir.
But you said before when you plant, you put coconut coir and peat moss. Isn't that what you said?
Well, the planting mixes that we use have coconut coir and peat moss and vermiculite and perlite and stuff in there. But if your plant is in a 3-gallon pot, the mistake that most people make is they dig a hole that's slightly larger than this. All right, so if it's a 3-gallon, we're just gonna dig our hole, just like this much bigger, so the plant will fit in there. Well, if our soil is as heavy in clay and as compacted as it probably is, you're basically just taking it from that 3-gallon pot and you're putting it into a 4-gallon pot. And even though you're putting it in the ground, it's going to act like a pot, and it's going to prevent the root system from growing any bigger. And so we want to dig the hole much, much larger so that the soil is loose and light and not compacted, so that the roots can take off and really grow and double or triple in size before it hits the hard stuff. Then your plant will be established, and when it does hit the hard stuff, it'll be tough enough to fight through it. Calvin.
My dad taught me you dig a $50 hole for a $10 tree.
Exactly. That's right. We're gonna take more time and more effort to dig the hole than you would think. So if our pot is, that big, that's how big we've got to dig the hole. I want it to be 2 to 3 times the width of the pot that it's in.
So I've got a question.
Yes.
I planted a tree, and I don't think I did the hole big enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I,
How recently did you plant it?
it's our pear tree, so
Years.
Yeah. It would be tough to dig it up without doing more damage to it than you're going to do good for putting it in a bigger hole now. If you'd done it like last fall, then I'd say, yeah, let's do it. But if it's been a couple of years, it's going to have a pretty well established root system. If you dig it up, it's almost like starting all over again. Yeah. So, but we're going to dig that hole 2 to 3 times the width of the pot or the root system if it's bare root. So if it's bare root tree and the root system is that broad, you want to dig your hole that wide and that big around. And that's a big hole, but your plants will thank you later for it because it needs that room to grow before it hits the hard, rocky soil all the way around the outside. So if you do have really heavy clay soil or you have a hard pan at a certain layer where it won't allow the water to drain through, the best way to dig your holes is to go even extra wide, but then try and go like that. And the reason you want your hole higher in the middle is so that the water will drain off to the sides. All right, so your plant can sit right here, but when it gets overwatered, because most people overwater their stuff, the excess water will drain off to the sides and it's not sitting in water. If you dig your hole, like this, all your water is going to puddle right there, and that's where your plant sits. Right? It's harder to dig a hole like that. That's why I have to go extra wide, so you can dig down here and then leave it high in the middle. But if you do it convex instead of concave, your plants won't stand in water if you've got heavy clay soil. So it really does make a big difference. All right, so you got to dig a really wide hole. And what I do is when I'm digging that hole, I will take the soil from the hole and I'll put it in a wheelbarrow or I'll put it on a tarp or somewhere where I can kind of keep it contained. Then I'll filter all the rocks and junk and stuff out. Dead root system, large rocks, kids' toys that got buried 20 years ago, whatever that's in there. It's like you'll find all kinds of weird stuff when you dig holes sometimes. I've had people dig holes in their yard and their contractors have like dumped all the rebar and the pieces of concrete and 2x4s and stuff there. And as they're digging their holes, they're like, where did this come from? It's like, well, it kind of got covered up with the topsoil. So you never know what you're going to find in there sometimes. All right, but we're going to take that soil and we are going to put it in a wheelbarrow or we're going to set it aside where it's all by itself. We're going to filter all the junk out of it. And then you're going to mix about 25 to 50% of a nice planting mix in there. All right. I have a lovely planting mix right here, which is the nicest one we've ever used. And I'm going to get a sample for you to taste it if you would like, but you can feel it for sure. So this is our planting mix from Royal Gold. Royal Gold is that company I was telling you about from California that does all the marijuana growers. This is the greatest soil of all time. It is so nice. But it is perfect to mix in with your heavy clay, yucky soil. So look how pretty it is.
Wow.
Oh, it's so nice, yeah. But as you touch it, then you'll go, ooh, this is even better than I thought. Yeah, it's so nice. And it smells like dirt, and it's got a lot of coconut coir in it. Let's see what the actual ingredients are. They are, I think they're $16.99. It's a little bit more expensive than a regular planting mix, but the quality is unreal. So it has in it, let's see, coconut coir and aged forest products, which is like really well composted bark. So it's like really, really composted bark because it's so small you can barely tell that it's even bark anymore. And it's got coconut coir in it. But then they do a fertilizer in there. So it's got worm castings and feather meal and bone meal and fish bone meal and fish meal and bat guano and gypsum and crustacean meal, kelp meal, basalt, alfalfa meal. It's got really good stuff in there, yeah. But it's not going to burn your plants. So
when would you use that for planting? Just use stuff.
25 to 50% goes in my wheelbarrow right on top of the soil that I've thrown in there, and then I mix it together, and it makes that soil that I took out so nice. It's like light and fluffy, and it's got some nutrient in there, and it's got a little bit of bark in there to keep it from clumping up, and it's just a different type of soil that you're putting back in the hole than what you took out of it. It just improves it that much. Wendy.
I have a question about this stuff.
Yeah.
Our son, he's a health inspector.
Yes.
Anyway, he was out there, gosh, 2 summers or 2 falls in a row.
Mm-hmm.
In that area where all the burn.
Yeah.
He was doing air quality.
Yeah.
But a lot of that area, like burn.
Yeah.
So there must be
This is in Humboldt County, and it's farther north. And as far as I know, there's like no damage there.
Okay.
Yeah, no damage there. So yeah.
I was like, oh, he's
Yeah.
got a couple of-
no, this is like really nice, really, really nice stuff. Calvin. The soil building conditioner also comes from the same area. It's a little coarser, and it's got more compost in it. So it's got poultry compost in it too. This doesn't have any poop in it. So no poop. The other one has poop in it, so you can smell it. So you can tell the difference. So I really like the soil building conditioner. That's great too. But this is even better. Yeah, this is even better. This is just like nicer stuff. So what we suggest is whether you're doing a container plant in a pot or whether you're doing a bare root plant, go get your plants. You've got your holes all dug and ready to go. Figure out where they're going to go. And if it's a bare root plant, like a bare root tree, we're going to like put a little bit of soil like right here. So we're going to kind of mound up some soil right there because the root system is kind of shaped like that. And so if you've got a little bit of soil, you can put the tree in there and it will hold it up a little bit better without it falling over. So then the roots would like go, over it like that. There's the graft right there. And there's our trunk going up. So we want to dig the hole deep enough that the graft will be an inch or 2 above the soil line. Or if it's in a pot already, we're going to plant it so that the existing soil line in the pot is about where we're going to have the soil line in the ground. But you may have to adjust that a little bit so that the graft is about an inch or 2 above the soil line. So that's for grafted trees. We don't want to bury the graft. We want the graft to be just a little bit above the soil line. That's so if anything comes up from below the graft, then we know it's from that rootstock instead of from the plant. So we're gonna do that. And as we're putting the tree in there or the shrub or the tomatoes or whatever, that's when you apply the granulated Bigfoot to it. So like either the granulated Bigfoot or the Mike. And these are the products that we use to like guarantee our plants with. If you'll put this on the root system when you plant them and then water them with the Kangaroots or the liquid Bigfoot, we give you a 5-year guarantee on our plants. That's how much of a difference it makes. So we have confidence that you'll get 5 years out of it minimum if you'll use the products. So you buy the products with the plants, plant with it, and you'll be successful. And if you're not, then we'll replace it for you. So we're going to put that in there, a little bit of soil. We're going to put the Mike or the Bigfoot all over the root system. And if it's been hydrating, it'll stick like crazy to it. You just got to sprinkle it in there. It'll stick to the root system. And then we're going to take our 25 to 50% of the planting mix, and you can use the soil building conditioner, you can use the Miller's box mix. There's a whole bunch of different products you can use. Work that into your soil, and then we're going to backfill with that soil, and we're going to fill the hole up almost to the rim of our hole that we dug, and then we're going to put some extra dirt right along the edges so it will hold the moisture in there. So, and I'll do that all the way around, so we'll make a little berm all the way around the hole so it will hold the water in there. All right, so a little berm of dirt around it. See, it looks like a spaceship, doesn't it? Yeah, I told you it looked like a spaceship. So at that point, we're going to mix up the kangaroos, or we're going to mix up the Bigfoot liquid, and we're going to water it with it, or we're going to use the water that we'd soaked it in the night before, and then water it in. We're going to saturate that soil, and then you're going to leave it alone. Don't water it every single day. This is where most people kill their plants. Since it's newly planted, we think we have to water it every day to keep it damp all the time. Well, you put that mix in there with the coconut coir, guess how long it's going to stay moist? Days, weeks sometimes. So if you're planting in March, you could probably water every 10 to 14 days and it would stay moist plenty long. All right. In the middle of the summer, even with that planting mix, it's probably only going to need to be watered every 5 to 7 days. All right. So if you're watering every other day, you're drowning your plants. So don't drown the plants. The best rule of thumb that we have when you're planting is plant it, water it thoroughly, and leave it alone for 2 or 3 days. And just don't do anything to it. Just leave it. And then after 2 or 3 days, go out there and, you can tell if it's been 50 degrees, it's gonna be a week before it even starts to dry out a little bit. So just don't do anything to it. But if it's dry, maybe in 3 or 4 days, go out there and dig down where the edge of your hole was, inside that hole just a little bit, and dig down 2 or 3 inches. And if it's still moist down 2 or 3 inches, leave it alone. Don't do any more. We're not going to water it till it dries out down 3 to 4 inches. When it's dry down 3 to 4 inches, then we'll water the whole thing again and then repeat the process. So even planting in July, when it was 95 degrees out, using a good planting mix like this for some 2-inch caliper trees where I had to dig the holes this big for them, I was only watering once a week. And that was on a south-facing slope where the sun just baked it all the time. And the surface of the soil would dry out the first day. But I'd dig down 2 inches and it would still be wet. And then after a couple days, I dug down and it was still wet down 2 inches. And so we were only watering once a week, even in July, because it wouldn't dry out that fast. And this is a rocky location as well, too. So it wasn't like really clay soil. This is a rocky hillside. And fixing that soil and putting the planting mix in there and digging the hole really big, it retained moisture way longer than we thought it would. Yeah, for sure. Brenna, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I always wonder about the trees that we plant in the lawn.
Yeah.
Sprinklers water them.
Yep. And the sprinklers will go down an inch or two, but unless you're really watering for a long time, it won't go down farther. So you'll want to supplement that at some point so that the water saturates down deeper, but it's going to take longer for it to dry out because it's getting that supplementary water, twice a week or 3 times a week.
So just when you plant them the first year, watch them. We've had some of them in a couple years.
Yep.
Should I soak them once this summer?
So if they're in with the sprinkling system, as the trees start to get bigger, where the sprinklers are watering consistently, it'll force the roots to be more surface roots. They won't go down as deep. And so the first couple years, I will water them deeply, maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, just to get the roots to go after that extra water that's down deeper. Yeah, but then once they get bigger and start to get established, then you don't need to really supplement them a whole lot. Except for maybe in the fall, if it gets really, really dry, I'll do like a deep watering in October, sometimes in November if it's like a really dry fall. Yeah, sometimes it's like that. So water thoroughly, let them go for a few days or a week, check them, Don't water them again until you've checked it and it's really dry down 3 or 4 inches. Then you will be less likely to overwater your plants. Some of our customers that have really hard pan soil with clay on top of it and that water never ever drains through, we have them take a long piece of rebar, just concrete rebar, and drive holes down through so that there's somewhere for that water to drain. So those holes will really help because instead of having a giant puddle here, it'll drain some of that water out so you don't have them standing in water. Because soaking them in water to hydrate them for 24 to 40 hours is fine. It's when they stand in water for weeks on end when it starts to rot the root hairs off the plants. And then they don't have those little fine root hairs that pick up all the water and nutrient that they have. So you basically cut off all their ability to absorb water by killing all the root hairs. And then the plants start to struggle. They just don't look like they're getting water. So then you water them more. So yeah, it compounds the problem. So Brenna.
And I've also wondered and heard different theories, like you're not supposed to plant any grass up to it. You should have like a
The trees don't care. It's whatever is easiest for you. So if you've got grass and you're fine with the grass going right up to the tree and you don't want to use like a weed trimmer around the tree, just don't damage the bark trying to trim the grass or get too close with the lawnmower and chunk the tree with it. So I think a lot of people are afraid to do that. And so they want to have 2 or 3 feet away from the tree where there's nothing there. So don't have to worry about running over the tree or something. So yeah, personal preference is what I would. They don't care about the trees and they just like zip, and they just like will zip it because a weed trimmer will just take the bark right off the tree. And if you cut the bark all the way around, it's basically like cutting all the arteries off in your arm and your fingers start to fall off. So yeah, it's not good. Yeah, Kaylee.
2 questions. One, if you were to pick a time to plant a bunch of trees,
Yes.
when would you do it?
Whenever the ground's not frozen.
So spring, better than
Spring and fall, both great. So like the soil's drying out enough that we could start planting like immediately. And you could plant until December when the soil freezes. And any of that time is great. But fall is actually the best time to plant. The trees get more time to get established before it gets hot. That's September, October, November. Great time to plant. But for bare root, you can never find bare root stuff in the fall, so you got to do it in the spring. Yeah.
And then evergreens, are they trickier? I just feel like my neighbors, they keep planting evergreens and
Yeah.
they keep.
They're killing them. They're killing them with too much water. I can almost guarantee they're doing too much water because the evergreens. Think about the evergreens that grow up Logan Canyon. They get watered like 4 times a summer, and they don't grow a lot, but they don't die either. And so we're usually just watering stuff way too much. Yeah, but evergreens are not necessarily more tricky. You just can't give them too much water. If you do the big holes, you have the good drainage, they will do sensational. Yeah, they'll do great. So after we get them planted, we get them watered. We don't overwater them. Like immediately after I'm done planting, I prune my trees. All right, so the trees need to be pruned. So
Is that true of raspberries and?
I cut my raspberries back when I plant them too. So like if the raspberries are that tall, I get them planted, I'll cut them 25 or 30% back to encourage more growth. And the thing that people don't realize with bare root raspberries is that's last year's cane, so it's probably not going to fruit anyway. And so you want to get new growth that comes off of it or new growth that comes up from the root system. And I don't care about the main cane. I want to get more growth coming from it. So even if you cut it 50% back, that's fine. You want new growth coming up from the root system. So we're trying to get the roots established, not so much have that leaf out and do anything for us this year. So yeah, was there another comment over here? Dale?
So same is true with oak tree, those?
Yep. So even if it's in a container and it's bigger and it's established, I will go through and I will prune out all the like overabundant growth that's on there. So if there's like extra branches and we've got 3 branches all in one spot on one side, I'll pick the best one. I'll cut a couple off. And, it's like if we planted that new tree and it's got, you know, branches all over it. I will look at that tree, and anything that's too close to the ground, the whole thing is gone. So like you got some gorgeous branches down the bottom, but they're 2 feet off the ground. They are gone. You know, 3 feet gone. You know, I take all those off, even, you know, down to there. And then these are longer, and I just want them to come back to here. And I really don't like that one because it's got a funny growth on it, you know. So yeah, so I'll take that much off.
What if you plant a stick?
Clara. No, go ahead. Wendy, then Clara.
Sorry. What
Yeah.
if you plant a stick? That literally.
That's just fine. And then I just take a little bit off the top to encourage it to grow out, because sometimes you'll get a whip. It's called a whip. It doesn't have any branching on it. It's just a stick. That's fine, because we want all that strength to come out on our stick. So yeah, Clara.
When you're pruning trees, is there, I think my parents taught me that there was one, like the main trunk of the branch you don't want to cut.
Were you here for the pruning class?
Yeah, we learned that.
Not
I
gonna
remember
say.
us not.
Yeah. Oh, dang it. All right. So there is a bud that is on the tip of any branch. All right. So let's say this branch right here is this branch right here. All right. Then there's like lateral buds that come off of that branch. All right. So the terminal bud, if you don't take it off, it will just continue to grow the same direction. All right. So that terminal bud will just keep growing that way. And it's going to be too long for this little small tree, so we need to trim it back. So let's say some of these other branches up here are pointing in different directions, and we want this one to grow to the right instead of to the left, because if it goes left, it'll like cross over some of the other branches. So if we want to pick a bud, let's pick that one right there. You're going to prune 45-degree angle, 1/4 of an inch above the bud, with the angle pointing in the same direction as the bud. So we're going to cut it just like that. All right, so 1/4 of an inch above the bud, 45-degree angle, with the angle pointing the same direction as the bud, because it directs the strength to go out that way. And so if we prune right there, the tree will grow this way. All right, so instead of growing out, it will grow to the right. But if we decide, oh, I would really prefer it go to the left instead, so then we do the same thing over here, and we prune it like that. And then it's going to grow that direction instead. All right? And so this is called a heading cut, because we're going to direct the branch to go where we want it to. All right, so that's going to be a heading cut. And so we could cut that branch back to here, head it, and get it to grow that direction. All right, so basically when you're pruning, you can tell the tree, I don't want you to keep growing that way. I need you to grow this way instead. We're going to fill in. And so it's your way of communicating with the plant. Say, let's go this direction. All right, and they'll usually play along, but then all these other buds will go out too. You know, so it makes it bush out a lot more. So instead of just having a stick with a couple of leaves on it, all of a sudden it's like developing branches. All right. But if we want to do a thinning cut, we're going to take the whole branch out. You would prune it pretty much back to where there's just like a little teeny collar right there. So we're not going to prune it right back to the trunk. You're going to leave that 1/4 of an inch collar, and you're going to cut it off right there, because it'll heal better if it has a little bit of a collar than if you take it like right flush with the trunk, because there's a lot of tissue right there where the branch is attached that will just heal over that wound better. So you always want to leave a little bit of a collar instead of a flush, clean cut. All right. So what happens is when they harvest the trees and their bare root, the root system that's there is usually 30 to 50% less than what the tree had to produce all those branches that were up on the top. So since they dug the tree up and they've damaged the root system here, you have to compensate for what was lost down here, up here, or else it's just going to die because it had a bigger root system to sustain all the growth up there. That's why it grew that much. So if you don't mirror what's going on down here, up here, it will never have enough strength to like sustain the growth that it has already, let alone put out new growth. And so you have to prune it severely to compensate for the loss of root system down here. Right? But if you do that and you cut back 60% of the plant, all of a sudden it has more strength and will put out a lot of new growth up here on top instead of wasting it on some unproductive growth that's down below. So we're going to get rid of all the unproductive growth, all the stuff that we don't want, and then it's going to focus all the energy that it has into growing in the areas where we focused the growth to go up on top. Make sense? Yeah, it's hard to do.
What would be the benefit of doing bare roots? Is it just cost?
It's less expensive and they're really easy to get established. Yeah, and so we do the bare root sale every year because it's 30% less expensive than the containerized stuff, and we can get different varieties in. If they come in and they're completely dormant, you plant it, they leaf out with everybody else. There's some distinct advantages to doing the bare root stuff that way. So even like if I take home a nice big oak tree and I plant it, I will find at least 30 to 50% of the tree that I'm just going to prune off. So anything that's like redundant or crossing over, or there's a whole bunch of extra branches on one side, I will thin those suckers out, and then I'll take the most growth and I'll trim it back. I'll just trim everything back so that it loses 50%. Because even if you took it out of the pot as gently as you possibly could and put it in the hole as gently as you possibly could, you still damage the root system. You've broken some of those fine root hairs, and so it's going to stress because it's lost some of its ability to pick up water and nutrient. So by pruning the tree back, you take some of the stress off the root system so it doesn't have to work so hard to recover for it. So Jack and then Wendy.
Can we, like I say, some of my trees are about 2 years old.
Yeah.
Can I still cut them back?
Yeah.
Because I didn't do any of
When I get them planted, I will prune them back, and then the first year or two, I'll just let them grow and do their thing, and then I'll start training after year 2 and start cleaning things up. So now's probably a really good time for you to go, okay, we have 3 branches right here on the same side. Which one's the best? And I'll take the other 2 off, and then I'll take that one that's really good and I'll bring it back a little bit, and so you're just going to gradually encourage new growth in the areas that you want by trimming off some of the old growth that the trees just grows haphazardly all over the place. Yeah. So at 2 to 3 years is when I really start training. And if it's like a stone fruit, I'm going for a vase shape. If it's an apple or a pear, I'm going to like modify the leader so it doesn't have one central leader going up, but it's got like multiple that are a little bit more upright. But if it's a oak tree or a maple tree, I'm going to train that central leader to go up because I want traditional tree shape to it. Yeah.
So what did you mean by the apple one? So you want to cut that?
It's what's called a modified leader, and so a standard tree would have a central leader that goes up, and then all the branches come off. That way for like an evergreen, the other way for a shade tree, but if you want to train your tree to like produce properly, if you had a tree with a central leader like that, you would trim it back to about 4 to 5 feet, and then you would let like 2 leaders come off of it, and then you'd have branches that come off of that. So you're going to open the center up just a little bit so you get a little bit more light in there. And this is how you prune apples and pears, is with a modified leader. So it could be 2, it could be 3.
Our pear tree has 2.
Like 2 leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of opens the tree up a little bit so you don't have that one central leader that goes up that kind of shades everything else. But if you were doing a peach or a nectarine or a cherry, you would let it grow up about 4 to 5 feet. Some people do it lower, but I like it up at least 5 feet, because then you can get in around the tree without hitting your head on the branches. But then you would have 3 to 4 main branches that come off that tree, and it's going to be really open here in the middle, and then all your branching is going to come off of that. So my peaches at home, they don't look like a tree that looks like this. They look like this. So the trees are branched like that, and here's the trunk. But if you look at them from the top down, they're empty. There's nothing growing in the middle except for, leaves. There's no branches or anything. That makes sense?
And what kind of tree is that for again?
So an open vase is for stone fruits. So cherries, apricots, peaches, plums, nectarines. You're gonna have an open vase. Apples and pears, you can train with the open vase if you want, but they're usually bigger trees, so you want more of a modified leader. So you'd have like 2 or 3 branches that kind of turn into your leaders. And then with like a traditional shade tree, you want just a standard central leader on it. Okay, you're welcome.
You had a question?
You got it? Okay, all right. Didn't want to ignore you. Good. Okay. I plant my tomato plants in my garden the same way. So if I've got a 4-inch tomato plant that's that big, I dig my hole that big. And I take my planting mix, and sometimes I will do just a straight potting soil, and I'll take the soil out and I'll put the potting soil in just as if I were putting in a pot on my patio. But I'll just put that nice potting soil in there and just plant it right in the middle of the potting soil. But I do the same thing. Mycorrhiza gets the kangaroo roots or the Bigfoot, gets watered in. If I'm transplanting, then I use the green aminos, which I've got hidden over here. So I started using the green aminos last year. Best stuff ever. Love that stuff. And
And this is what you put in the root?
you mix this in with it. So yeah, so you mix it in with it. So if you want my secret recipe for tomatoes, I have a video on the website that will do it to show you exactly what I do. So it's my tomato magic formula. And it just walks you through the whole process, how to dig the hole, how to work the soil in there, what to water it with. And then I do the disease control in with the Bigfoot and with the Fertilixer, like all at the same time. And I water the plants with that the first 2 or 3 weeks. And then they get established really fast and they take off, and it keeps the diseases from getting in the soil and just prevents a lot of things. So, but I do basically the same process for my tomato plants or for my squashes or for my perennial flowers or my flowers in my flower beds. I do the same thing. Yeah, just got to dig those nice big holes. So probably next week, we're going to plant pansies out in the flower beds on Center Street. So we're going to do 4-inch pansies. And before my volunteers come to help, which is great to have volunteers, but sometimes they do it their way instead of my way. And that is no go. Yeah, so I will show them exactly how to plant them before they start planting, because they will do it their way instead of my way. And since we have to baby them all summer, it better be done my way instead of their way. So we're going to make them dig big holes. Fortunately, I've got a crew of people that's going to like rejuvenate the beds, and they're going to turn them over and get them really nice and fluffy. So if they have to dig bigger holes, which I'm going to make them dig bigger holes, they won't complain about having to work so hard to dig the bigger holes. Yeah. So Calvin, I know I feel so bad for him. Yeah.
What about planting, tomatoes at an angle?
Yeah.
So you get a bigger root?
Oh yeah, yeah. My dad would take home the yuckiest, saddest looking tomatoes that were like big and tall and leggy and nobody wanted them. And he would take those home and he would dig a hole for them. So like say this is our dirt line. He would dig a hole for them, but then he would like put the root system in here, and then he would take the plant that's coming up and he would force it to go this way underneath the soil, and then he would push it up so it would bury that whole stem of the plant, and it will root all the way along that stem. So he'd take the big ugly plants and he'd basically plant them on their side and then just kind of turn the tip up and then bury all of it. Oh, some of them were like 16, 18 inches long. So he'd bury them sideways and then just stick the little tip up so it'd come up out of the ground, and they'd do great. Yeah. Yeah. You pick all the leaves off and then it'll just root. Yeah. So right along the stem where it's kind of fuzzy, those will all turn into roots on those tomato plants.
Dig them deeper too, right?
Yeah, or you could like just dig a deeper hole, which is more work. Yeah, and plant it down here and just have it come up here and just only have like the top little bit of the plant sticking up. But you can bury that whole plant, and it'll turn into a root system. So you get a really big root system on your plants really fast that way. So when we did our seedlings, I had them in the little nanodome, and they were getting plenty of moisture, and they were rooting like crazy outside of the soil. So they were rooting along the stem before I put them into the 4-inch pot. So if you want to take a plant today, you're welcome to take a plant. So the ones over here are the Mingle Mix. The ones here and here are the Optimax, if you want that really big Roma, and they're coming out of it, so they're starting to get a lot better. And then these 3 right here are also the Mingle Mix. I had a couple extras, so if you want to grab some plants and whatever's left over, I will nurse them back to health. Mingle Mix is a grape tomato. It's about that big, and it comes red and pink and yellow. Yeah, but I'm not sure which one's going to be. No, not on the same plant. So there's different ones in there. Yeah. No, that's a great question. Great question. So I do have peppers that do change colors, but the tomatoes, it's going to be either red or pink or yellow. Yeah, it's going to be one of those. So we take the seeds and we buy them red and pink and yellow, but we mix them together. And so then you get a surprise. It's kind of fun getting a surprise. You don't know what you're going to get. So yeah, kind of fun. Okay, any questions on the planting? Yeah, any planting?
So this would be, okay, again, like for roses.
Yeah.
Do the exact same
Do the exact same thing with the roses, and our roses will come in about, end of April, 1st of May.
Where are those receipts at?
Oh, you can't find the receipts?
I don't know where they are.
They're on my desk. You brought me snacks. Perfect. I love it. Okay, look on, there's a cluster of receipts that are like paper clipped together right by the adding machine on my desk. Thank you, Tom. A perfect snack right in the middle of class. All right. Okay, I'll explain because it'll make complete sense when we're all done. Okay, Kaylee.
Do you, with your annuals, sometimes you have them filtered down, do you recommend,
Don't do anything to the roots. The more you mess with the roots before you plant them, the more likely they're going to go through shock. So unless they're just really, really, really root bound,
like a grass or something?
just leave them alone.
But what if they are really, really good?
Then just try and gently kind of squeeze them, because the more you squeeze and scrunch and stuff, you break all those roots, and it's just like cutting them off. Yeah. Sometimes the roots kind of grow together and you just gotta like tear them apart. But the less you do, the better. The less you do, the better. And some people will take a tree out of the pot and the roots are kind of started to swirl around the pot a little bit. That's fine. The roots will still grow out. But it used to be like you had to cut the roots, and it does so much damage that it takes forever for the plants to recover from it. So Jack,
Even if the root wraps around itself,
just leave it alone.
Okay. There's 2 thoughts there then, I guess.
I just leave them alone, because if I start cutting them, all of a sudden I'm replacing the plant. Yeah, Sunny.
So I was told that I bought a potted plant, and they said lay it on its side and then like roll it to like break it, or like.
It's to loosen the pot up so you can get it out of the pot. That's okay, because it's not really doing too much.
Okay.
Just kind of press gently on it and roll it and jam it.
Okay.
And you can slide it out better. Okay, short story on the fries and the Coke. So we have some good friends, and they spend a lot of money here at the store. And when they get to tax season, she always wants me to print up all of her receipts because she hasn't kept her receipts because she uses she sells dahlias and iris and stuff, so she buys a lot of stuff here that's like business related, so she's like deducting the expenses. You know how many receipts she has? I mean, we're talking like 100 receipts, and she wants me to print them up. I'm just like, I'm on the phone with her yesterday. Tammy, I don't know one single mayor in the entire country that will print receipts up for you other than me. And she laughed, but we printed up all her receipts yesterday. I got a couple employees and we just split it up 3 ways, and it took us 15 minutes each to print up all of her receipts, but they're all downstairs. And so I messaged her this morning. I said, your receipts are all done. I expect a Coke and some French fries. And so that's why I said it's going to make sense. You know, I was hoping that they would show up before class, but happened to show up right in the middle of class. So that's why I have French fries and a Coke, because I was like, for that kind of work, I better get French fries and a Coke. You know, that's all there is to it. So, yeah.
Hey, you said dahlias.
Yeah.
Can you give us some pointers on those real quick?
Oh, yeah. Do you have some already, or you would like to
I
plant
just
some?
ordered a bunch of tubers, so I want to be successful.
You ordered them.
Did I not?
I'm going to have a whole bunch here, so that's okay.
Tubers or plants? How are
Mhm.
they going?
Yep.
Are those a perennial or?
Hmm. Well, they're not perennial.
You have to-
They're not perennial here. You got to dig them up because they won't winter over in the ground. It's too cold. So when they come, kind of put them in a partially warmer spot. We don't want them like really warm because then they'll take off too fast, but you want probably like 60 degrees. You could pot them up indoors and then get them going and then put them outside, but usually I'll wait until they have little eyes on them. So you want them to start a little sprout, and then you can figure out where they're going to sprout, because sometimes you can't tell on the tubers where they're going to come up. And then you really don't want to plant them until end of April, 1st of May, because they are sensitive to frost. And so if they come up too early and they get frozen, then they'll be damaged. But we end up planting them so that the tip of the tuber where the sprouts are coming up are about 3 to 6 inches below the surface of the soil. So you want them down pretty deep. So if you have them too shallow, they get really tall and the flowers are heavy. It'll just pull them right over. Yeah. So you got to be careful with them. And
The
then
only flower I've ever seen that looks artificial. They look plastic.
the dahlias, oh, they're so pretty though. Some of
I
those,
know,
some of
but
those
they're
big,
so
some,
perfect.
yeah,
They
some
look
there's just
so
like
pretty.
big flowers. And the great thing about the dahlias is once they start to bloom, they'll bloom all summer for you. They'll bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom until it freezes. And usually you're like right before the first hard frost, we'll cut the flowers off and dig them up and bring them inside. And if you leave a little bit of stem on there, that's fine. But we'll let the stem kind of shrivel up a little bit because it'll feed the bulbs back. And then we'll cut the stem off, put them in wood shavings or peat moss or vermiculite, and store them for the winter time. And then in the spring, usually March or April, we'll pull them out. They'll start to have little sprouts coming on them. You can divide them.
That's when
Yeah, you want to divide them. When you see where the sprouts are coming up, that's when you divide them. Because if you just start cutting them apart, all of a sudden pieces of them don't do anything. And so you're better off waiting until they sprout before you cut them.
And are we watering them when we plant the tuber, or are we waiting for them to come up before we water?
As soon as you plant them, I would hit them with the kangaroos or the Bigfoot. They will love it. Oh, they'll go crazy. We did sweet potatoes, like the sweet potato vines, out in the flower beds last year, and we used the kangaroos on the flower beds all summer long, and compost tea, and we had tubers off of those sweet potato vines that aren't supposed to produce tubers that were that big. I had tubers that were that big. Some of the city workers were helping us kind of clean up. They're like, "Can we eat those?" I was like, "If you want to," but they don't taste really great. You know, they're not made to eat. But they were huge. They were like,
Can you
they were that
save
big.
those?
Not really.
No. So how do you grow a potato vine?
You just buy new plants every year.
Yeah, I do. But I just wonder why it produces that.
Yeah. I mean, you could probably get slips off of it, but it's such a pain.
Why
It's
does
just
the-
cheaper to
why
buy.
does the plant produce it, and if you don't use it?
It's ornamental and it doesn't taste very good.
Uh-huh.
But since we use the kangaroos and the Bigfoot and stuff on them,
Oh, I just like,
just
Yeah.
go crazy. Yeah, they
So
go
where do you
crazy.
Yeah,
get
it's
your
pretty
sweet
big
potato vines?
Like the edible ones?
No.
Oh, like the ornamental ones?
Yeah.
We get some from Rudy's, we get some from Allen's, we get some from Brady's. So they're all locally
Right,
grown.
but when do you get them?
Oh, probably that second to last week of April. Like when we do our spring open house, which this year I think is the 17th and 18th of April. 17th and 18th of April. We'll have some then.
On my birthday.
But
so that means
it's a little bit early. Absolutely. You come find me. I'll get you one for free, Sonny. Yeah. I will take care of you. So,
One
yeah.
more question on Valley, sorry.
You got it.
Are we cutting the middle, so it pushes out the first bud that comes out, we're cutting that off, or not?
If you do that, you will get more flowers.
So you'd recommend?
Yeah. It's better to pinch that first one. Yeah. Then it will bush out. Instead of just having one big tall one that just like flops over. So that's a good idea. Yeah. But they like to be fed. So feed them pretty regularly. Yeah, just general purpose flower food. You know, the compost tea would be great. The Green Grove flower food would be awesome. They would absolutely love it. So they'd be really good. So, okay, roses.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do roses. Did we cover all the planting? You feel pretty comfortable with that? That's like one of the most important things that we cover is planting. Because if you do it this way, you will be more successful. You just won't have the transplant shock. You won't have plants that just die. If you do it right, you'll get like 99% that works. So
our roses are already starting to bud, and then put the little red
Mhm.
little babies coming up and everything. And we haven't pruned them yet.
Don't prune them.
Okay.
Mother Nature is teasing you because it's going to be 70 degrees next week. But then the first week of April, it's going to get cold and snowy and awful. So just plan on it. It always snows or rains on conference. Always. So just be prepared. Brenna.
Okay, so I created a situation. I got lavender, and I planted it too close.
Okay.
Because I realized it needed water,
Yeah,
but now can I transplant it over?
absolutely.
where it lives?
Yep. The lavender is a perennial herbaceous flower, and you can just like, when it grows big, you can just like dig it up and cut it into pieces and then move it somewhere else. So yeah, so
It makes babies
no worries.
too.
It does. It sends up little suckers all over. So yeah, don't stress it at all. Right now would be a good time to move it, or this fall, whenever works best for you. But do it while it's dormant before it's really leafing out. So we want to do it in the next month, or do it in October, November. Yeah, Wendy.
Is it too late to prune now?
Prune what?
Like trees and everything?
Oh, great time to prune. Yeah,
If they started
everything's dormant still. Some of the buds, they're kind of like swelling a little bit, but they're not swelling open. So that great time to prune. Yeah. Yep. And if you think about it, if you've driven through Brigham City recently, they don't have it. They're not blooming though. They're like, everybody's still kind of dormant. So we're a week or 10 days behind them. So even if we get some really good weather this week, if it kind of starts to bloom over there, we're still a week or 10 days behind them. So.
I noticed when I drove through there after the pruning, I thought, oh man, that's what those guys are doing. You could tell
Yep.
most of their trees had not been done.
Yep.
But the ones that had been done,
Everything is cut right off. Yep, all cut right off. So, yep. And I'm gonna count on JD taught you well on the pruning and what to do. So that's good. He's really great. JD's awesome. Okay, so with roses, you don't want to start pruning the roses and feed them until April conference. All right, and it doesn't matter whether you're LDS or not. If you live here, you know when conference is.
until after April conference then?
Like that weekend. So
Saturday.
first weekend in April, go for it. All right. The reason is if you prune them too early, they start to grow. And we don't want them to grow too early because they get frozen. You get too much new growth that comes out. We get a cold snap for 2 days and you've just lost all your new growth. It'll kill it every single time. As those roses, that new growth is really, really tender and temperamental. And so we tell people, do not clean your roses up until that first weekend in April, because if you do, you're taking a chance that they're going to get damaged. So that's when you pull all your mulch off, prune the roses up, fertilize. The key with roses is to fertilize, 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 fertilize. So roses are like the three-headed hydra. You cut off one head, it puts out 3 more. You cut off one of those heads, it puts out 3 more. And so you want to prune regularly and fertilize monthly. So if we clean up the roses on the 10th of April and prune and fertilize, I do the 10th of April to fertilize, the 10th of May, the 10th of June, the 10th of July, the 10th of August, and then I don't fertilize anymore after that. So once a month from April to August, feed them every month.
And you use the fertilizer?
Oh, we've got like the Fertilome Rose Food with Systemic is really good. Occasionally I'll throw the compost tea on them. But I mean, just feed them basically every single month, because roses will only bloom on new growth. So this is your hybrid tea, your grandiflora, your floribunda. They will not grow on last year's wood. And so if you have a rose that's 3 feet tall, none of that 3 feet is going to produce flowers. It's the new growth that comes off of it that will produce flowers.
So then
So we really do want to cut them way back.
Oh, you're going to prune them way back. So we're getting there, Jack. Yeah, we're getting there.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking
no,
of-
no, you're
What
good.
else
You're
to
good.
do? I mean,
So in the springtime, for those 3 types of roses, you're going to prune them severely in April, and then we're going to fertilize them every month. And every time you produce a flower, you're going to prune it off, and then it's going to produce 3 more. And you're going to prune those off, and you're going to produce 9 more. And you're going to prune those off, and you're going to produce 27 more.
So you wait till it like
You can get them just as the buds are starting to open. You can get them when the buds are tight. You can wait till they open up all the way. Whatever works for you. But you got to prune them off. Yeah, because if you stop pruning the roses, they stop blooming. All right. So in the springtime, you're going to have all of last year's growth, and it's best if you don't prune them in the fall, just for the same reason that we don't want to prune them too early in the spring. So if you prune them in the fall, it encourages more growth when they should be going dormant. So we're going to prune them in the spring at the proper time so they start to come out of dormancy and start to produce flowers. So they could be 3 or 4 feet tall. All right, so here's our rose bush that's 3 feet tall. All that growth from last year. In the fall, the best thing to do is to leave them alone while they're still blooming in September, and not cut the flowers off once you get into September. Let them form rose hips. So then you get like rose hips on the tips. So the flowers, once they fade, they'll start to set seeds, and those seeds are the rose hips. And when it forms rose hips, it tells the rose it's time to go to sleep for winter. And so it'll make them hardier sooner for wintertime. So just let them form rose hips in the fall, and that'll actually make your rose hardier and more prepared for winter sooner. All right, so we just leave those on there. So in the spring, when you get ready to clean all your mulch off, because we're going to mulch them in the fall so that they can handle the winter better, we're going to pick 4 to 6 main canes that we like, that look really good. And you're going to have some winter damage as well too. And this is another reason we don't prune in the fall, because if winter damages the roses 24 inches and they turn black and they're 3 feet tall, at least you have 12 inches that's still green. But if you prune them down to 18 inches in the fall and you get 18 inches of killback, then you have nothing left. So better off leaving them big, and then if they die back, then you can prune all the dead stuff off and you can tell where the green part is. All right, so I would pick 4 to 6 main canes that look good and healthy, and everything else gone, all of it.
how tall then? Okay, so I have some roses that are small.
8 to 10 inches. 8 to 10 inches is what you would cut back a large grandiflora hybrid tea or floribunda rose. If they're minis, those suckers, you can't kill them. You just like shear them with a hedge trimmer. Yeah, you don't have to do anything to them.
So 8 to 10 inches tall.
Mm-hmm.
cry,
And if you have,
but you won't cry in the summer.
yeah,
There you go.
oh yeah, you're gonna love it. You know, pick out the bad ones. Some are going to be damaged. Some got crushed by snow. Some the deer nibbled on. I mean, whatever. Just take out the damaged stuff. And some of them you may have to go down to 4 inches or 6. You know, they're not all going to be exactly the same height. You can get in there and do a little trimming. But take everything else out, because once you fertilize it and it starts to grow, that's where all your flowers are going to be. So the new growth is going to come off those main canes, and it's going to come up and it's going to have this beautiful flower on it, even though it doesn't look like that. But there's leaflets that come off the rows, and there's leaflets that are going to come this way. And those leaflets all have 5 leaves on them. So each rose leaflet has 5 leaves. So you're going to count 5 leaflets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to prune right there. So you go back 5 leaflet leaves,
So the flower has bloomed, it's gorgeous. I count down 5 leaves.
and you prune it right there. Yep. And you can get it while the buds are tight still and bring it in and enjoy it, or you enjoy it right outside. But as soon as it starts to fade, 5 leaflets, cut it off, and you're going to cut it just like you did on the tree that I showed you. You're going to go back to that leaf bud, and you go 45-degree angle, 1/4 inch above the leaf bud, and you're going to prune it right there. All right. So when you prune it right there, you take the flower and you enjoy it, and then it will send up more. And they'll have flowers on those, and then they'll put out more leaflets. And you go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaflets, and you prune it right there. And you start it all over again.
And then, that one puts out 3 buds.
Then that one puts out more. Yeah. And 3 is my gross generalization. It could be 2, it could be 4. I mean, whatever. Yeah.
But you get multiples.
You get multiples. So could you see why you have to feed them so much? Because we're taking all this growth off, and we want it to produce more, because that's where you're going to get more flowers. So it needs to be fed like all the time.
So then the short ones, we prune them down to still about 8 to 10 inches.
The very,
Mm-hmm.
very first one.
But then there's like shrub roses and old-fashioned roses, and they perform more like a shrub. They're more of a wild shrub. And so you can just leave them tall and just hedge trim them.
We don't have any.
Or if they get out of control, you can just go in there and cut them down on the ground. They just come right back. You know, it's like you can't kill the stupid things. So yeah. That's why they're old-fashioned roses. They won't die. They won't go away.
That is a conundrum. You got weeds
Mm-hmm.
that you do everything to try to destroy, and they don't. Then you have
Mhm.
plants that you want to do, and they die. And it's just like, what's the deal?
Okay. Did Josh talk to you about Cazeron? Anybody remember? So Cazeron is a weed preventer, but it kills existing weeds as well too, and it lasts for 6 months. The great thing about Cazeron is you can use it in your roses, and it won't hurt your roses, and it won't hurt raspberries, and it won't hurt blueberries, and it won't hurt shrubs, and it won't hurt trees. It has bark on it and won't damage it at all. If it doesn't have bark on it, it kills it. So it kills grasses, it kills morning glory, it kills weeds, it kills purslane, it kills everything except for woody plants. And that includes canes. So all your canes, grapes, raspberries, roses, blackberries, blueberries, it won't hurt them. It kills everything else for the whole summer. So you put that on your roses. When you uncover the roses and feed them, you will not have to weed the roses the rest of the year. That's how great Cazeron is. It's awesome. And it works the same way in the raspberries. But you got to get on the raspberries now before the raspberries start to come up, because it'll kill the new shoots if you get on too late. So greatest product ever. I'll tell you my awesome story about Kazaron.
Is it a granule or?
It's a granule. It's a granule. So a few years back, I believe it was 4 years ago when we had the snowstorm that never went away. The one that was like 100% of normal. When it snowed 3 feet on my deck on the 10th of April. Y'all remember that one? So that year, I had taken a bag of Kazaron home to do my mom's roses with and to do a couple different spots with it. And I'd used part of the bag, but I had some left. And so I just taped it up and put it inside my carport where it was protected, and forgot to put it away. And we got all that snow, tons of snow, and snow kind of encroached on our carport, and the bag got covered up. And so my wife was being very helpful, doing snow blowing with me, since we were like snow blowing all the time. And she went down the side of the carport, got the bag of Kazaron, and it threw the Kazaron into our flower beds and onto the lawn in this one section before she realized what had happened. And so she came in and told me, she's like, I think I did something really bad. And it's like, oh, what did we do now? Because it's an ongoing occurrence at my house, and she's like, well, I hit a bag of something and I think it was Kazaron. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Kazaron. Well, let's see what happens. It's like everybody always asks, how well does this stuff work? And it's like, well, if it hit this whole section of flower bed, there's daffodils and there's columbines, and it's onto the grass and, everything. And everybody always asks, how well does it work on grass? And it's like, well, it works really well on grass. We'll find out. So, that next year, nothing came up in those areas. Nothing. Absolutely zero. All the grass was dead. All the flowers were dead. The daffodils didn't come up. Not a single weed. Nothing. So it works great. Yeah, it works awesome. Yeah, so it really works. Yeah, it really works. And I don't think she put it on too heavy either. The snowblower distributed it pretty decent. So, it wasn't like she doubled it up or anything. It really did a great job. But then the next year, all the grass came back. It's like it just kind of grew back in, and now we've got grass in the flower beds, and it's like, all right. So yeah, time to redo that spot. But the Kazaron works awesome. Okay, on the roses, did we forget something? Oh, mulching the roses. All right, so in the fall, once they all grow and are big and beautiful, and they put lots of flowers out, and we got flowers on there. Remember, I got my degree in history, not in art. So, once they're big like that, I leave them tall, let the flowers fade, rose hips grow on there. And we're going to put about 10 to 12 inches of mulch after you put down magnesium sulfate, potash, and sulfur. So our rose cocktail, we actually call this the rose cocktail. It has magnesium sulfate, quarter cup of potash, and a quarter cup of sulfur. And you put that all on your roses, just right around the base.
Do you like sell that in a bag?
In little 4-pound bags. It's not very expensive. You do a quarter cup of each, so you can do 32 roses with each bag. So it's not bad at all. And the mag sulfate is like highly water soluble. It'll dissolve and just go right down in the soil. The potash and the sulfur will take all winter to break down. But what they do is it will make your roses hardier through the wintertime. It will make them bloom more the next year, and acidifies the soil, so you'll have fewer chlorotic issues with iron and stuff. So it fixes a lot of problems with roses. But we put that on, water it really good, and then we're putting 10 to 12 inches of mulch in around the roses. Now, some people will use like leaves or leaves with a little bit of grass clippings in it, and that's fine. But in the spring, you got to pull that all away from the roses, and you got to go move it somewhere else because it's a mess. And you don't want that to like cover the soil around the roses. So you got to pull that back, gather it all up, and go compost it somewhere else. If you use a product like the soil building conditioner or the planting mix or something like that, you can actually pull it away from the roses in the spring and then work it into the soil. And it's much easier to do that, but it is a lot less expensive to use ground up leaves and grass clippings and stuff. So
So the mulch isn't like the wood chippy stuff that you put out. The mulch is like
you need something that's more dense instead of airy, because when it gets cold outside, you can put a coat on, and the coat keeps your body temperature inside. The roses don't have body temperature, and so we can't put a coat on them because they're cold to begin with, and so it doesn't help that way.
Are you talking about this planting mix? Okay.
Or a soil building conditioner, or there's a whole bunch of different things you can use, but use a mulch that you can actually work back into the soil, because it'll save you a ton of work later.
so in the fall we'll come in and we'll say, okay,
Mhm.
roses, what do you what do I need to buy? Give me everything. you
Soil
need.
building conditioner, magnesium sulfate, potash, sulfur. Boom,
And
done.
you'll
Yep,
say,
yep. Here you go. So if you do that much mulch, it's going to like mound up and cover the roses right there. So since the roses don't generate body heat, we're not really trapping heat in there. What we're doing is we're insulating them against drastic changes in temperature, because it's not the cold of winter that really kills them. It's the up and down of the temperatures. So this year hasn't been quite so up and down, but we've had like 50-degree days, then it's in the 20s, then it's 50-degree days, then it's in the 20s. And it's those drastic changes in temperature that really do a lot of damage. And it's not the consistent cold if we protect them correctly, because if we protect them correctly and put that mulch on there, what it does is it keeps the cold from penetrating into the root system